Yo, this is MykonosFan, and I've finally decided that I'm taking the time to make Living Dex the way I want to. This video is mostly an explainer of my self-imposed rules for my streaming audience, just so I don't have to keep going over it over and over again. But for some reason, my Living Dex video from November reached a few thousand people. So if you're one of those people and this video popped up on your homepage, hey, I'm streaming as much of my journey as seems reasonable on twitch.tv/MykonosFan. Come follow and hang out sometime. So to put it basically, what I'm trying to do is have as complete a Living Dex as possible in Pokemon Home, with each Pokemon coming from their original generation's game and region, with Mykonos as their OT. If you're familiar with existing Living Dex challenges, I'm basically taking Birdkeeper Toby's Master Dex challenge and massaging a lot of the specific challenges out of it and just kind of running with the overall spirit of it. I think it's an astoundingly fascinating challenge, but there's a lot of particulars there that I think I'd rather consider tackling once I'm on the other end of this. As a quick example, for his Living Dex challenge, the Tentacool in your Pokemon Home box has to be the soft lock preventing Tentacool you get gifted in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. I think that's hilarious and I want to try it, but not now. Another stipulation is that the Ho-Oh has to come from Pokemon Coliseum's 100 Battle Gauntlet, which is a lot. I'd link to his latest video on the challenge in case you're interested, but he will likely be updating it with the release of Scarlet and Violet's home compatibility, which is likely just around the corner. I don't want to link it and have it immediately be outdated, so I'll let you search on YouTube for that just in case. It's a gnarly challenge. So in my gentler adaptation of it for my purpose, to focus back on things, is for each Pokemon to come from their original game. Basically, my Pikachu has to come from Red, Blue, or Yellow. My Mareep has to come from Game Boy Johto, Dialga from Diamond, Greninja from X or Y, etc. We're in a closing window of time, I think, where it's possible to move Pokemon from any generation forward. Pokemon Bank is still up following the 3DS's eShop closure, thankfully, but for how long? Will this still be possible in 5 years? I'm not so sure, and that's why I've decided to finally get this ball rolling. So it all seems simple so far, but I'm also adapting another rule from Toby's challenge that I just think is so neat. See, not only do the Pokemon have to come from their original game, but if they get any evolutions later on in the series, that evolution has to be sourced from their original region. With Gen 1 and Gen 2 specifically, there's an additional layer of neatness here since the 3DS Game Boy titles get a Game Boy origin mark and display as being from the good old days. For some inexplicable reason that tickles me even more so with evolutions that happened after those good old days. Now, I already have an example here. By moving a Cyndaquil from Pokemon Crystal into Pokemon Bank, then moving that to Pokemon Home, and then moving it into Pokemon Legends Arceus and evolving it, I have a Hisuian Typhlosion that registers as being from Johto. It is the most wasteful, silly flex, but it's a flex I want to be able to have in all of these situations. Now, regional variant evolutions like this can be tricky, so as a clarification, something like Hisuian Typhlosion is possible since it evolves from a Johtonian Cyndaquil in Quilava. However, something like Sneasler can never be from Johto, since a Sneasel from Johto can't evolve into Sneasler. Only a Hisuian Sneasel can. There's no way to make one type of Pokemon change into its regional variant. It has to evolve from that base original form into a regional variant for this to be possible. Now, as another example of this, there's no Galarian coughing, only Galarian wheezing. Therefore, a Galarian wheezing that reads as being from Kanto is entirely possible since there's only Kantonian coughing. But a Hisuian Voltorb or Electrode from Kanto are impossible since those both have a root entirely in Hisui. Again, I just think it's neat and it's how I want to do it. This same idea will apply to cross-generational evolutions in general, of course. An Electivire must read as being from Kanto since it can evolve from Electabuzz, and that's the earliest that line can go back. It's impossible to have an Elekid that comes from Kanto though, so it will have to register as being from Johto. Smoochum from Johto, Jinx from Kanto, Weavile from Johto, Porygon Z from Kanto, you get the idea. There's some fringe what about cases I'm probably forgetting to address, but that's the general gist of things. Now, I will be using tricks within reason to make this easier on myself, as you've seen if you've tuned into the 2 streams that have already transpired. For one, Emulator speed up is on the table because there's a lot of games here and I already have a lot of content in my life to work on outside of these streams. I'll also be selectively utilizing save state reloading, such as when I did this to capture my first Abra in blue version on stream. I want the authentic experience of playing the original games as I go along, but I also want to respect my time and yours, so I'm trying to strike a good balance with it. Additionally, for Gen 1 specifically, you can trade a Pokemon out to Johto, breed it, and send it back to Kanto, and then send that Pokemon forward to Bank and Home, and it will still register as being from Kanto. So for example, to help me get all of those Kanto Eevee from earlier, I will be utilizing breeding and then sending the baby Eevees back to Kanto so that I can get them faster than just playing through the game. Then I will just evolve them in whatever newer game is easiest or makes sense along the way. There's a lot of little things to explain, and I'm sure I've forgotten an answer to an obvious question or two, but the overall idea is here and simple. And yes, this does mean I'll be hunting one of each unknown on stream, except for the exclamation point and question mark ones, since I already got that in Fire Red. I also already have all of the alchemy from my own self-induced torture, so no one will have to suffer through that with me. I also basically have a complete Paldean Dex pre-DLC, barring any cross-generational evolutions introduced in Scarlet and Violet like the Dunsparce. We'll get to the Dunsparce later, because the 3 segment from Johto, oh god. But above all, this is an excuse for me to revisit each game throughout all of Pokemon, because I do love this series, for better or worse. So if that sounds fun to you, please do feel free to join me. You may pop in on me getting a badge, or you may pop in on me trying to get the 1% Honey Tree Munchlax in Gen 4 and hating everything about every breath I take. It's up to you which of those sounds more fun.